Welcome to Terrifying and Twisted.
Do you want a brew? Hey up! Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Episode 6. What did everyone think of episode 5? We had some good feedback, didn't we?
Yeah. And we did put out a warning that it was quite a sad episode.
Yeah, both stories, weren't they?
Yeah.
Oh, well. How's everyone's week been?
As has been alright, hasn't it? A good end to the week.
Yeah.
We're actually child free tonight.
First time in how long?
Friday night, we're child free. So we'd already set up that we were going to record Friday night, didn't we?
Yeah.
So we thought we'd get this done and then get onto our child free night, which will probably consist of Coronation Street, Gogglebox,
It's Friday, Gogglebox.
and a takeaway,
Yep.
and then something maybe murdery afterwards.
Yeah. I don't know, I fancy some a bit... We've watched a lot of murder stuff this week.
Yeah,
Murder in Little Town.
yeah. That did you
That
all know, didn't
blew
it?
my mind. If anyone hasn't seen it, go watch it.
Channel 5, I think it was.
Yeah.
I'm watching Bosch at minute on Amazon Prime. It's about a real cool LAPD homicide detective that's a bit messed up.
Yeah.
And he's after a serial killer. It's a bit of a slow burner, but it's alright. It's not to write home about, but it's...
You don't give up on series very often,
No.
though, do you?
And the guy who plays Harry Bosch, who's the main character, is really good. Something really funny. I said to Carla yesterday, Carla,
Fuck
we
off.
need a new fishing chair because we've got a really comfy one and a really shitty chair.
Right. But let's just clarify, every time we record these, I get the shitty chair.
Yeah.
Every time.
And I said to Carla yesterday, we need a new fishing chair because this one's knackered. I've had it ages. And she's gone to sit down tonight and fallen backwards on it.
Upside down.
Like a turtle on its back.
Fuck off. And you didn't help me, you just fucking rolled over laughing. Thanks for that. Oh.
So, apart from that, we've just been Costa run,
Again.
as usual. But we've just been driving about listening to music when we've got a few hours spare away from kids.
Yeah, we've done that a lot with this lockdown.
Not drove massively out of his way.
Oh no, but just
in a 5 mile distance.
yeah. But it's
So
just
just going around houses.
been out listening to music,
Yeah.
cheering us up with a Costa, obs.
Yeah. So, whatever you need to get ready. Get your brew ready.
Got my brew,
Get your drink ready, your smoke ready, whatever.
whatever you're having. Before we go on to my case though, did you see this week? Obviously, you remember when I did Lisa Montgomery case?
Yeah.
And I was quite shocked about death penalty.
Yeah.
So I dug a bit, didn't I? And I took an interest. And I was really shocked to see that certain states allowed firing squad as a form of execution. So obviously I looked a bit into that, but it popped up on my news feed yesterday, I think, saying that on Wednesday, 3rd of March 2021, South Carolina have now added firing squad.
Yeah, I tagged you it in.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Honestly, it blew my mind because I got looking. If you remember, I listened to that podcast and when he explained to me how they get the lethal injection,
Yeah.
it blew my mind.
Yeah.
And that's why they've brought it in,
Yeah.
because they can't source it.
And that's why I tagged you it in, because you'd obviously told me all about it.
Yeah, that, honestly, I've read a bit about it last 2 days.
Yeah.
Fucking firing squad.
Just a quick note, Lee Richardson does exist.
Yeah, he's still part of our podcast.
We tried to do it over video calling,
Oh,
the sound one.
We weren't happy to put it out, were we?
So we're waiting until we're out of lockdown and we can meet up. Although, I do think it might be a bit of a squeeze with 3 of us
Oh, it'll be fine.
on fishing chairs, so we might have to try it in his dining room. But
See how it sounds.
he does exist,
He does.
so...
He'll join us shortly, won't he? No doubt. Make his appearance, and
Yeah.
we're looking forward to welcoming, aren't we?
Yeah.
So, do you want to dive into my story? I'm
I've
first.
got my trunks on.
Let's go. So, this week I came across this case on one of his many Facebook pages, and I'm going to tell you the story of a couple called Dean Lowe and Kirby Noden. So an English couple.
Right.
And the crime was committed in January 2017. So
Recent.
Yeah. So I'll go into it. I'm going to give you backgrounds on them both and stuff. Dean Lowe and Kirsty Noden, she was known by Kirby to everyone else. Her
Right.
real name was Kirsty, but she was known as Kirby. So they'd known each other all their lives, growing up together in Winsford in Cheshire. Dean had been fostered as a baby, something I think his parents had drug problems. Kirby's mum, Anita, were really close friends with Dean's dad. Now, as a kid, Dean apparently were really funny, he had a really loud personality and he just loved making people laugh. Kirby were a bit younger than him and she adored him. People said she followed him about like a little bit of a lost puppy. But they spent a lot of time together. Dean would be round their home. He'd actually call her mum, Anita, sister. So, you know, sort of like a blended extended family. It was said that he liked to be sort of a protector of Kirby and his sisters and cousins and stuff from quite an early age. But he was never violent, just like carefree. He'd stand up for him, but he was never violent. So when Kirby started to get a bit older, I think it was 14, they became a couple. Just a, you know, first sort of relationship. But as they grew a bit older, they just grew apart. Now, as they were getting older, Dean's behaviour started to get really strange. A girl called Rebecca Tilford, who is Dean's cousin, she started to notice that he was just behaving really oddly. He'd never behaved like this. He was smashing windows, robbing cars, setting light to him, just silly things.
Been a little bastard.
Yeah. But when he was 20, he ended up having to go live with his cousin Rebecca after an argument with like a local family, but he bit somebody's nose off.
Nice.
Within this argument. So after that, he just started breaking into cars, setting them on fire even more. And then Rebecca's sister had an abusive boyfriend, and one day he'd knocked her about quite a bit. So Dean went and stabbed him with a screwdriver.
Right.
So of course this behaviour is getting a bit worse. A few years later, Dean's dad died. Kirby went to the funeral with her mum. So that's where her and Dean got chatting, started going over old times, and to be honest, it weren't long before they were back in a relationship. By this point, they were both in the 20s, and they decided that they were going to start fresh. So they moved down to Torquay.
Right.
Just for a little bit.
I'd love to go there.
Well, I've been to Cornwall. I've not actually been to Torquay, but I've seen. Oh, it looks beautiful.
I've never been
You've not, have
that
you not
far
been?
down south. Get a nosebleed.
We should do. We should take kids. So they moved to Torquay, and it was supposed to be just like for a little bit, but really quickly they started to struggle with money, and they both became homeless. So, just accepting the situation, they thought, you know what, we're going to use this to travel down coastal line. And they basically lived in a tent for 6 months, travelling down coast. But they always stayed in touch with her family, her mum, his cousins.
Yeah.
Even when they were homeless, they always stayed in touch. After about 6 months, they both started using drugs, smoking a bit of weed, ecstasy.
How are you going to afford all this?
Well, Dean actually started posting pictures of, like, taking E's online and stuff like that, and pictures of them off the head. So Rebecca had spoke to Kirby and said, I'm a bit worried about what Dean's sort of posting on social media. And Kirby had admitted to her that he was using quite large amounts of heroin as well, and she were quite worried about him. So obviously Rebecca just said, please try and get some help. So they actually decided to go to a charity who were obviously for drug addicts.
Right.
And this were in 2010. They got clean. Dean really started to struggle, so he weren't clean very long. So he started turning to legalise, and by that, I mean cutting himself quite badly. So his blood pressure had dropping off to give him the same high feeling as he'd get off heroin.
Right.
He'd also stopped all contact at this point back home. So he'd stopped contacting...
With his family.
Yep, everybody. Then Rebecca started getting worrying messages from him, and he started posting really graphic shit online, all his self-harm. She was concerned. She kept trying to get Kirby to get him some sort of help, but obviously he didn't. 1 minute, he sort of seemed completely normal. He was really happy, posting about how he loved playing his guitar on the beach and that what best thing they'd ever done. But then next minute, he'd be posting pictures of self-inflicted wounds, captioning them really strangely and stuff like that.
Right.
But then in 2013, Kirby and Dean got married. Little ceremony on the beach. Kirby were over at Moon. She basically was telling Rebecca that she'd married love of her life. He was a soulmate. Madly in love with him. Despite all his drug problems, it said that she really adored him.
Right.
So not long after that, Dean sent Rebecca a video which she described as being disturbing, and it sort of ended where blood splattered across the camera.
The fuck?
That's all I could find out. It doesn't say much.
So Dean sent that to who?
Rebecca,
And she's...
his cousin.
Right.
They live up in Cheshire.
Yeah.
They're obviously in Cornwall.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he sent her this video, and by this point she said it was fair to say that Dean was just having complete up and downs. He'd post pictures of carvings and knives that he'd used on his arms. When I talked about the illegal eyes, it's actually called bloodletting. So that's when your blood pressure drops, you get the high, and obviously it's legal.
Sounds awful.
Yeah, I can't imagine, but people do. He then shared another picture where his wound, like his leg, well, you can see these pictures by the way, his leg was really deeply cut open, and all it said is, you can see me muscle, lols. So you can imagine he obviously was not mentally well,
No.
in my opinion. So then by 2016, it became really, really bad, the sort of stuff he was posting. Even to the fact, like this, I find this strange. He'd put a poster for everybody to see of him in Kirby's underwear.
Right.
With it cut. Like, it's just, when you see it, it's bizarre.
Right.
I don't understand why that had ever... what would have gone through his head. But by this point, anyway, he'd become really controlling, and he had stopped... He wouldn't let Kirby have a phone, couldn't contact the family, stuff like that. By this point, they'd had 2 children together, but it weren't long before they were taken into care. With their lifestyle, it was pretty chaotic, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And it said that Kirby just tried her best to keep the relationship on track, but with Dean and his drugs, it was really hard. Kirby's mum also said that she tried her best to keep in contact with her, but Dean would just block everybody. And, you know...
I'd have to go find my daughter.
Yeah, So anyway...
You're in a nightmare position as a parent.
Yeah, you are. You can see it, can't you?
Yeah.
But don't forget as well, this girl, she genuinely, like, loved this man with everything.
Yeah. I believe she did.
So anyway, eventually they managed to get a little flat. It were in a lovely little village near Mounts Bay, and Kirsty were hoping this was going to be a fresh start. They could, try and get off the drugs. Kirby soon became quite well known around the village. It were only a little village, but everyone always described her as really happy and generous.
What did they do for work?
None of them worked.
Right.
Anyway, so in January 2017, a neighbour had reported them because one thing they both did love were the dogs. So this neighbour had reported them because of the dog mess that they kept leaving in this shared communal garden where they lived. So a bit of an argument broke out. Police came. When they come, Dean answered the door and he stepped out and he closed the door behind him, but the police just assumed he didn't want the dogs to get out. Dean just explained, I've been and picked it up. It was just a silly argument. So off they went, basically. That were it. Didn't think anything of it. 11th of January, it said that is the last ever sighting of Kirby.
Right.
Now, don't forget, she had no contact with her family. So the fact that they'd not heard from her didn't alarm them.
Well, out of order.
No, because they were used to Dean allowing contact, then cutting it off.
Manipulating.
Yeah. So it's not actually known what truly happened to Kirby. But this is what the police have pieced together from statements of and things they've found. So it's said that Dean attacked Kirby in the bedroom using a rock. He basically beat her, smashing it against her head that hard that it broke into 5 parts. He then used a metal pole that had 3 screws like protruding out of it to finish her off, is what it said. Blood, obviously, you can imagine with a pole with the screws, had splattered absolutely all over, and the walls, the mattress, everything. Dean actually thought it were alright to just flip mattress over and continue to sleep on it. Didn't try and get rid of it. Yeah, that's just a little bit of info for you there as well. He got rid of the bits of rock by just dropping them in random parts at the flat, so didn't actually take them out of the flat. And he also left the metal pole stood up in the corner. He then decided to cut Kirby's clothes off, put them into drawers out of the way in the flat before cutting her up, basically taking all her organs out.
Cutting her up with what?
Anything in flat. Knives. He basically took all her organs out, flushed them down the toilet.
Oh my God, that's disgusting.
He then used a rucksack to basically transport body parts bit by bits
Out at
flat over a period of time.
Yeah.
On 13th of January, he tried to use a bank card, but he didn't actually know the PIN number. And then over the following months, he used it online to buy just random shit. He could use contactless as well.
Right.
But by this point, his social media went even worse. He sent, remember his cousin Rebecca?
Yeah.
He sent her messages basically telling her that he was fucked up and that he's waiting for his judgment day. She didn't really think much of it because obviously he'd been quite bizarre before. She just thought he'd gone through a bit of a good period and then gone downhill again. Maybe stopped drugs for a little bit.
It seemed all downhill to me.
So they didn't think much of it, you know, given his strange behaviour before. But like many people can't hold their own water and they end up spilling the guts at some point or another. So in May, 4 months after he'd initially killed Kirby, he started messaging his cousin again with details saying things like he had a blackout and that he cut her up. I put a body in bin down road.
And this is 4 months after?
This is 4 months after. No one had noticed she'd disappeared.
No one's reported her missing?
No. Also, I'm getting set up by her and the body I cut up was fake. She ain't even dead. So, obviously, his cousin at this point's thinking, what the fuck is he on about?
Shouldn't they have been thinking that a few months ago? But anyway.
So he then sent a message saying, facts are, there were a body looking like Kirby on my floor for days. I flushed blood and guts down toilet and got rid of a body in bin down road. So by this point, you know, they're a bit concerned. He then sends a picture of his wall in the flat that he's not even cleaned with blood.
The blood splatter.
Yeah. So this is 4 months after as well, don't forget.
Wow, and he's lived in that.
Yeah, he's living in it. He's sleeping on that mattress.
So he's got rid of body.
Yeah, bit by bit.
But not cleaned up all blood.
No. Oh, he did do one thing. He actually cut a section of the carpet out where the blood spilt, but that's it.
Didn't recarpet it?
No.
Just a random square in middle of carpet.
Honestly, I'm not making this shit up.
Fucking hell.
So obviously by this point she decides that I'm going to get in touch with Kirby's mum, see if she's heard from her. And when she says no, she explains these messages, so they decide to go to the police. So on 18th of May, a police officer turned up to the flat. They found Dean, who straight away admitted that Kirby were dead, but he weren't sure how it happened, is what he said. He invited this police officer in, but straight away, when he looked round and he noticed the blood on the walls and what have you, he thought, I'm not safe here.
This copper?
Yeah, so he requested backup.
Fucking quick.
Yeah. So while they were waiting for this backup, Dean showed this officer a necklace he'd made using Kirby's teeth.
And he told the copper it was Kirby's teeth?
Yeah.
So this murderer has just invited you into his home. Come and see
Evidence.
what I've done. Like a scummy bastard that he is. And now he's bragging about his...
He's wearing a teeth round his neck.
Round his own neck?
Yeah. So, shall I continue? He did say, I don't know why it took you so long to get here. I've been waiting. Cheeky bastard. So anyway, he obviously were arrested and taken to custody. And when he were interviewed, again, admitted to killing Kirby, admitted about beating her to death, cutting her body up, getting rid of it, using other people's wheelie bins on the streets, bit by bit, just placing her in it. But then all of a sudden he completely changed his story. After admitting everything he'd admitted, just really randomly, he changed his story. And he tells them that she is still alive and she's living with a lover and this is all a big setup.
Right.
He said that Kirby and her lover kept drugging him, that they even got 2 men to rape him. They kept coming back to the flat, plying him with more drugs and tormenting him. Apparently it was Kirby that smashed the rock on the floor and said, this rock is your heart that I've just shattered.
Fucking hell.
Right. So the police soon established that Kirby hadn't been seen since that January 11th.
And you're chatting shit, mate.
They couldn't find any evidence of a lover at all. He then went on to say that they'd find her in South Africa, but she didn't even own a passport, right?
She could have got a fake one.
Maybe. So when they asked him about blood on walls, he said that she did it. She sprayed it all over to set me up.
What, her own blood?
Her own blood. So he was then remanded to prison. Whilst he were awaiting his trial, he claimed that Kirby had actually contacted him and rang him whilst inside. Apparently another inmate come running up to him, handed him a mobile, and on other line, it was Kirby. And she was laughing at him, and she said, "Ha, you've got life in prison now, and I'm living my new life." Fuck no, I don't know. So anyway, at trial, Dean pleaded not guilty.
Right.
Of course he did. Saying he didn't kill her.
Has he had a psych assessment?
I can't find anything that suggests they've put him through psychiatric assessment.
Okay. Well, if anyone listens to this and maybe wants to try and dig even deeper,
please.
And does find the answer, please let us know.
Yeah, be interesting to... But I think he must have been.
Surely.
He must have been. He's clearly got a very long history of being up and down.
Yeah, and
self-harm.
His cousin should have all them records of all this weird stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, he decided to plead not guilty. He said that he didn't kill her and that she was setting him up. In fact, his trial ended up getting pushed back by about 3 months because the police decided they had to investigate it a bit deeper and see if they could actually find any evidence. Because don't forget, they'd not actually found any body either.
No.
So
just the blood.
Yeah. And he's changed his story, so...
They need stronger evidence.
Yeah. But when it did eventually go to trial, it took 3 weeks for trial to end, and then when it finished, it took jurors 10 hours to all come back and find him guilty. He didn't actually go to that trial. He refused to leave his cell.
Can you do that?
Well, must have done. Must have done. So, a week later, he was then sentenced, and he was sentenced to life in prison with a maximum of 28 years.
Right, so what evidence did they have if they didn't have a body?
It's obvious. Well, I don't know.
They must have had strong evidence if they've
Well,
got
to me,
conviction.
with everything that he'd have said, everything he said at first was the truth. So if they've gone off that,
And
the evidence will be...
He's got a fucking teeth round his neck.
Yeah, the murder weapons are in that flat.
Right, yeah.
Don't forget.
Yeah.
So he ain't got rid of anything.
He's literally just got rid of the body.
Yeah, bit by bit.
And lived
within the state.
in the crime scene.
Yeah.
For months.
Yeah. So I'm assuming it had been pretty hard to find him not guilty.
Because they've got a pretty good crime scene.
Yeah. And, like they say, you know, you can't go under radar forever.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my story. If anyone wants to dig a bit and let me know if you find out about any sort of psych reports, it'd be interesting to...
I really enjoyed that, that was good.
It were different.
Yeah.
It were just way he described flushing her guts down the toilet.
Sick
It
shit,
was
though.
awful, yeah. But I found it quite different. It weren't...
Is to say he's manic and goes through his episodes, he was quite competent enough to get rid of that body.
Oh, he knew what he had to do.
Piece by piece.
Yeah. He knew what he had to do.
There were no mania when he were getting rid of body
No, he were in sound state of mind,
Yeah.
wasn't he?
to cut up a body.
I couldn't even imagine where you'd begin.
You don't need to imagine because
Well,
hopefully it's never going to happen.
It won't happen. God.
Unless I should be worried.
Well, we have said many a times, one of us goes missing, at least as mates know.
Yeah.
That both of us are quite knowledgeable in how to hide evidence.
So we'll get straight into mine.
Come on then.
This lady.
Oh.
Well, I wouldn't say fucking lady. This
Piece of shit.
person, Katherine Knight, was the first female in Australia to receive a life sentence without parole.
Oh, what has she done?
She was born on October 24th, 1955, in Tenterfield, Australia. She is a non-identical twin.
Okay.
Her mother called Barbara, father were called Ken. It were alleged that she was the product of what started as an affair.
Right.
Okay. Ken was a slaughterman in the local abattoirs, considered really good at his job. It were a strict household. There were 6 kids, including Katherine. After moving about, they settled in Aberdeen, New South Wales.
I always worry when a story contains someone that works in an abattoir. Philip, you just know where this shit's going. Go on.
A lot of local people worked at the abattoir. Young Katherine Knight had a temper. She was teased by boys on bus. She was no pushover. She had no problem scrapping with lads.
Okay.
It was possible she inherited her mother's fiery temper and foul language. Bit like you, Carla.
Shut up, Philip.
It were alleged that Ken, her father, were a violent alky who raped her mother multiple times a day.
Nice.
And Kathy claims she was sexually assaulted by several family members until the age of 11. So not a very good child.
No, not at all.
Kathy achieved bare minimum at school and she left at age 15. There was only one thing she wanted to do, and that was following her father's footsteps.
And working abattoir.
Working in an abattoir.
Of course.
She was 16 years old when she eventually got a job. She started as a general labourer doing clean-up.
Yeah.
All shit jobs, basically.
Yeah.
But then she moved up to be a slicer.
That comes in handy, doesn't it?
Yeah. She loved the job. She was very efficient and precise with her knives. She took pride in them.
Ah, fucking bet she did.
Kept him in mint condition. As she got older, she was described as normal, heart of gold. But that dark side and that temper
Yeah.
and that foul language.
Bit
And she
feisty.
could be vindictive.
Oh, God.
1973. So Kathy meets her first husband, David Kellett, a raging alky who were prone to drunken fistfights, and Kathy would even join in the fistfights.
Oh.
Sounds like you, Carla.
Shut up, Philip! I've grown up.
1974. She convinced David to marry her. He was drunk the entire time on the wedding
Okay.
because he's a raging alky.
Yeah.
On the wedding night, they consummated the marriage 3 times. Easy, tiger. So, the 4th time Kathy wanted sex, he fell asleep. So
Oh, did that piss her off?
she started to strangle him.
Fucking hell, that's a bit more than pissed off.
She's 18 at the time.
Oh no, she's going to be trouble.
Despite this, the marriage started well. But Kathy's violent streak got worse after about a year, and mood swings and stuff like that. Dave Kellett were unfaithful. One night, he left his wife and 2 daughters and just left. After finding out about one of his affairs, Dave Kellett left with another woman in 1976. So what Kathy did is she thought, I'm going to get back at him.
Of course you did.
So she placed a 2-month-old baby on the train tracks.
What?
She placed a 2-month-old baby on the train tracks and left the baby there. Luckily, someone saw it before the train came.
Where? Whose baby?
Her baby.
To get back
At Dave Kellett, because he's run off with another.
with another woman?
Yeah.
Wow.
So she were arrested and she was taken to St Elmo's Hospital, where she'd previously been.
Right.
They diagnosed her with postnatal depression.
Okay.
Previous encounters, people had reported that they'd seen her with a pram and she was throwing pram about really aggressively. She'd threatened to kill people with an axe, is reported. She released from hospital a few days later, 3rd of August 1976. Went to the house of one of her co-workers and asked for a lift to the doctors for one of her daughters. So at this time they've got 2 children.
Yeah.
When they get in the car, she pulls out a butcher's knife to her co-worker.
Right.
She slashed her on the cheek and she wanted this co-worker to drive her to Dave Kellett's mother's house. She later admitted that the plan
She was going to go kill her, wasn't she?
was to confront Dave Kellett, because I'm assuming he'd moved near his mum with this other
Right.
woman, kill his mother if she couldn't get to Dave Kellett, and commit suicide. That's what she's later.
I said that was the plan.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
This co-worker pulled in a nearby service station and somehow escaped. When the police arrive, Kathy has got the co-worker's younger brother that came on the ride in the car with him and had a knife up to his throat. She was disarmed by police with brooms. I don't know why.
What?
But that's... she was disarmed
With
by a
brooms?
sweeping brush.
She had a knife held to a boy's throat.
I thought it were a bit odd. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Okay.
So she was admitted to the Morisset Psychiatric Hospital.
Yeah, she clearly needs it.
It alleged later on, she said that what she wanted to do is, before Dave Kellett left her, he got his car fixed.
Okay.
And a mechanic obviously fixed his car. She was going to kill that mechanic because he was the reason that her husband got away. Because he fixed his car.
Right.
She wanted to kill her husband's mother.
She wants to kill a lot of people.
Yeah. So she's diagnosed with personality disorder.
Yeah.
And somehow Dave Kellett regained communication and he returns home with his mother
Right.
to look after Kathy.
Okay.
So 6 days after this incident with the brooms, the sweeping brushes,
Yeah, being disarmed.
she gets released into the care of Dave Kellett and his mother. Barbara,
I find that a bit strange. Why would they release her and take care of them when they know that she were going to go kill him?
I think she later admitted that.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that'd be really bizarre.
Yeah, that'd be fucked up.
You know,
Someone would definitely be for high jump.
someone's definitely fucked up there, aren't they?
Yeah. So Barbara,
Yeah.
Kathy's mother, blames Dave Kellett for Kathy's breakdown. You left, you were shagging other women,
Yeah,
this is your fault.
you've caused this.
So Barbara attacks Dave, starts giving him a few punches and slaps, and Kathy gets out of the car as this is happening. She walks over to Barbara and floors her. Don't ever touch my husband again.
Fuck off.
So they get back together. They move to Queensland. Kathy gets another job in an abattoir as a meat slicer. She's even that proud of her knives, she mounts them above her bed, just in case she ever needs them.
What, just for in middle of night?
Yeah.
Because that's normal behaviour.
Like if you've got a cheese board.
Well, just because me and you often like a cheese board late at night, Philip, don't mean I'm going to start stacking fucking knives at
She
night.
might want to wake up at 3 in the morning and say, oh, I'll have a bit of Cathedral City.
Fuck off. On a fucking cracker.
So, relationship was still violent. She had an affair herself. She'd hit him with a frying pan a few times, poured petrol on his clothes, held a knife to his throat. Not a very good relationship.
Not all very toxic relationship.
She ended up putting him in hospital.
Oh my god.
He didn't press charges.
No.
This is in 1983, but it ended the marriage.
Right, so that were it between them.
Kathy cleaned the house out, took the curtains, the light bulbs, everything.
Proper petty shit.
But Davey wasn't bothered, he was just happy that she'd
She were
fucking
going.
gone. Yeah. So Kathy moved back to Aberdeen. It's her parents' farm with Melissa and Natasha. These are her 2 daughters.
Yeah.
She returns back to local abattoir, back as a meat slicer. In 1985, she hurt her back. It didn't really get much better, so she ended up losing a job.
Okay. That's really not going to help things.
She'd been seeing a male,
Male.
called David Saunders 3 years on and off. And she did some fucked up shit to him as well. She killed his dog.
What?
She killed his dog.
The fuck for? Just because?
Because she's a fucking nutter.
And he stayed with her after that?
I'd imagine she were quite fucking scary, to be honest. So, she ended up killing his dog. She slit his throat. She made loads of wild accusations at him, saying that he'd overdosed her.
Can I just ask? She was diagnosed with personality disorder.
Yeah.
Were there any sort of like continued support for that back then? Were he,
Well, we're talking 1980s.
that's what I mean.
So
like, what was stuff medicated back then?
I don't know. I wouldn't have been born.
Not even a twinkle.
In 1988, she had a child with David Saunders, and in 1989, she got a 15 grand compensation for hurting her back at work.
Right.
She paid most of her mortgage off.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, she had a restraining order on David Saunders, even though they were seeing each other 3 years on and off. But this doesn't happen more than just once. She ended up stabbing him in the stomach with some scissors. Dave Kellett had sent Christmas presents home for his girls, and she'd not give them to girls. Just out of pure,
Oh, yeah, 'cause he's the dad of the two.
pure spite.
Yeah.
And then she starts seeing another bloke, male, called John Chillingworth. Again, on and off violence, and she had a son with him in 1991. Not long after, they got into physical fights, charged, and a restraining order.
Right. Reoccurrence.
I think on this one he had a restraining order on her, but then they get back together.
So it's pointless.
And he doesn't drop the charges.
So he still has a charge?
And they go to court together.
Fuck off. Right, okay.
So at this time she's been unemployed for about 8 years. She has an argument with John Chillingworth. They split up. And she starts seeing another called John Price. So she's got a new job. She's seen a new bloke. She's got 4 kids to 3 different fathers. Yeah. Not that that's a bad thing or that. It's just for pure facts. So John Price has got 3 children. Suffering from the loss of his mother. I think he likes to drink as well. It's kind of the same theme as before.
True.
Great at first.
But to be fair though, it's all she's known growing up, isn't it?
Yeah, great at first. Arguments. He used to really do things to annoy her, which probably wasn't fucking hard, but he didn't help himself when he were calling her by his ex-missus's name.
What?
Yeah.
No, I don't think I'd be tempted to wind her up.
She threatened to kill him.
As you do.
He said, "Look, I want you out." He worked at the local mine, did John Price, and she basically made his life hell. She phoned up where he worked and said that he'd been stealing stuff. And he ended up getting sacked from the place he worked at.
She's lovely.
So, they have an argument, and as he's washing up, she stabs John Price in the left side of his chest.
Right.
He goes to hospital, obviously. But it's not reported. She tries convincing a nephew to throw car battery acid in John Price's face.
Why are they still together? So much toxic. It's not even... It's unreal.
She were bragging, "I'm going to kill Pricey." And for 6 years this is on and off. He's got a restraining order on her. She's got a restraining order on him.
Oh, how did the police not get fed up?
Right. So we come to March 1st, 2000.
Okay.
John Price don't turn up for work. His workmates phone police. So
obviously it weren't like him not to turn up for work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Police go by his house.
Yeah.
And I'll let you listen to this next bit.
That morning, 2 of the first officers on the scene were Officer Matthews.
I was actually working at Muswellbrook that day and received a phone call at the station from a workmate of Mr. Price's.
And Officer Furlonger.
I got the call from his boss, say that he hadn't come in and somebody had been out there and the ute was still in the driveway and they couldn't raise anybody. And not thinking the worst, we were just thinking, oh yeah, he's probably died on or something. He hasn't woken up.
I knew Mr. Price before. I knew that he was a hard worker and a reliable man, so it was a bit unusual for him not to turn up to work and not to make a phone call.
I went up, knocked on the door, didn't get an answer, saw some blood on the door handle, looked through a little gap into the lounge room, which was dark, reasonably dark, and saw what looked like a bunched up curtain hanging down. I couldn't raise anybody, so I decided to go and break into the place. Seeing as we had this complaint, walked around the side, there was some meat lying on the ground. Anyway, went round the back, broke in through the door. As we went in, I saw straight ahead what I thought was a curtain.
There was something hanging, blocking my entry into the hallway of the house. I thought it looked like some type of blanket or some sort of covering that had been placed up on the archway. So I remember I used my left hand to push it aside, and immediately I could feel coldness coming on my left arm. So I looked down, and my left arm was just covered in blood. Initially, I thought I'd injured myself breaking through the back door. I couldn't understand why my arm was bleeding.
I realised then it was a human pelt, it was a skin. minus the head. A full skin just hanging from the top door frame. I looked past it, saw a torso on the ground without a head, without any genitalia, and my first reaction then was to turn around to Scotty and say, "Don't look, Scotty." Of course, that's the worst thing you can say.
I could look through from there into the lounge room, and I saw what appeared to be a human being, or what was left. And so it was at that point that I realised what had happened. For something that I'd never seen before, I'd never experienced, I had an immediate idea of what had gone on. It was at that point I drew my service pistol.
There was blood everywhere. A line of blood out from the door into the kitchen area. There's a pot on the stove. I think I might have even said to Scotty, "I'll give you one guess where the head is." On the table, there was a couple of plates that had meals prepared, vegetables and meat cooked, sitting there.
Sergeant Verlonger was talking to me, saying it's going to be all right, we've got to keep going, we've got to finish this, we've got to do whatever it takes. He was talking to me, and I was trying to hear if I could hear anybody else, because sometimes a little bit under stress, you get that auditory exclusion, and you're not hearing things. You're just focused on the threat. It was quite a frightening experience, but once you've stepped into that situation, there's just no backing out.
So we went to search the place, and we went up the hallway.
We heard what appeared to be someone snoring coming from one of the bedrooms. So we knew there was someone alive in the house.
Looked in there, and there she was lying on the bed. Tried to wake her. She was obviously drugged on something and couldn't wake her properly. She was very groggy.
She wasn't responding, so we carried her outside and put her onto the back lawn. I wasn't sure if she had tried to kill herself with sleeping pills or whatever, but she certainly wasn't injured in any way.
Wow.
So what do you think about that?
Fucking hell. That's just blown my mind.
Could you imagine what
No.
the coppers have seen?
Oh my god.
So, do you want to hear more?
Obviously.
So, scene of crime, investigator comes. You've got your pelt, John Price's skin hanging from a door off a meat hook. Blood absolutely everywhere. Body's in lounge. He's been decapitated. His genitalias have been cut off. He's been cut into his backside. The gluteus maximus.
Yep.
The ass. And she cut that into 5 separate steaks and cooked them in the oven. So she put...
My god.
So she laid out all table all
Yeah.
nice. She put 2 on one plate, 2 on another,
Yeah.
and the 5th bit went out for dog.
That is what we're outside.
Yeah, she threw it out for dog to eat. And there were 2 places set, and on these places there's a little card with 2 people's names on.
Go on.
One is John's son and one is John's daughter.
Fuck off. Oh my god.
How fucked up is that? She wanted to feed.
His kid's his own body.
Yeah.
His own ass.
John Price's head was in the pot.
Obviously.
Cooked meat, veg, gravy, the lot.
Fucking hell.
It said that she killed him with a knife in bed, stabbed him 37 times. He couldn't fight her off. She was too strong for him.
I'm not being funny, but she knows what she's doing with a knife.
Yeah. She dragged his body downstairs, hung him up on a meat hook.
She's basically skinned him, hasn't she?
And skinned him.
Yeah.
God, it puts chills through me. Cut up pieces to serve with potatoes, veg and gravy. Like we said. She made a dish for herself, but she couldn't finish it.
Did she actually eat some?
She tried it, but she couldn't finish it, and they found it at the crime scene.
Oh my Jesus.
She claimed that she had amnesia, she didn't know what was going on. She's got personality disorder, don't forget. But not look, that's a whole different conversation. So, police are obviously saying this is premeditated, this is planned. She pleads not guilty,
Okay.
but then she changes it to guilty.
She just wanted to be a bit of a fucking smart ass.
So, 15th of October 2001, the trial started. All evidence is heard. She's got no emotions through the trial whatsoever.
No.
But then when it comes to sentencing, she breaks down.
Okay.
So, she gets sentenced, and she's the first woman in Australia sentenced to life without parole.
Yeah.
She's appealed. It's been rejected.
On what grounds has she appealed?
I've no idea.
Fucking hell.
Apparently she don't give a fuck about it. She's never given a reason for it. She's done it.
I think it were a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
There was so much build up
So
to
much
this.
build up, yeah.
So many attacks. So much.
So many fucking restraining orders.
Fucking hell, yeah. And ultimately, she got what she wanted, didn't she?
Yeah. So,
And that was to kill.
hopefully she's in prison, rotting.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, that's Katherine Knight.
That's blown my fucking mind. How I kept quiet through, well, you sat opposite me, you can see my reaction. How I kept quiet listening to that.
Unreal.
I'm going to have a look at that one.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed episode 6.
Yeah, I hope it's been a good one.
I've really enjoyed it.
I'm just thinking by the time this goes out on Sunday, hopefully everyone will have all uniforms ironed, hung up, kids in bed, they've had a bath, and they're thinking...
Got the gym jams on.
The end's in sight, because it'll be back to school. So I hope you're all looking forward to having a bit of time to yourselves for a change.
We are.
We definitely are. We've got a few plans, haven't we?
Yeah.
So... We'll see you next week.
Have a good week.